Hey, hey, how you doing, fam? I hope you're going well. It's a beautiful day where I'm at, and I hope it's beautiful where you are. The journey's very divine at the moment. I just spent some time with one of my oldest friends that I have a very close connection with, and it's crazy. Her and I, we've known each other since we were kids. We grew up sharing all sorts of different reflections, different traumas. And we're both at very similar places in our life where we're doing a lot of healing for ourselves. We're doing a lot of healing for our parents. And we're really kind of, yeah, there's a lot to explain. And the thing is, it really, the more broader and the more open I get, the more I open my mind, the more I open my spirit, the more everything's happening. It's very complicated, and there's so many different languages and ways to explain, I guess, what I'm experiencing. And with her, I can really speak so freely, and she understands and she gets it. I'm just very grateful. Yeah, she is a bright light, and she sees a bright light in me and always affirms that and always supports it. So yeah, I'm where I grew up. This is Blackmans Bay. I'm going to walk around this neighborhood. I'm just going to see what memories get activated and see what comes out. I'm on a street called Hearn Road, and I spent especially a lot of my teenage years, early teenage years on this road. There's a cul-de-sac at the end there. I remember when I was young, there were like two girls that lived in the house at the end, and one of them fell off a cliff down on the beach when I was young. All sorts of things like that. I think she survived, but I can't quite remember. But I do think it was a pretty traumatic thing as a kid, growing up in a suburb that has a beach and a few cliff faces. Spent a lot of time down around here, just being kids. But that comes with its tragedies, Yeah, this house, 38 Hearn Road. This house holds a lot of interesting memories for me. A lot of interesting memories. Yeah, I remember there was a guy called Fez or Faz. He was a pizza deliverer, really big guy, and he lived here. And my best mate when I was a kid, his name's Andrew Crookshank. He was my childhood best mate. We were two Andrews. I was fat, he was skinny. And his dad moved in here. And so, yeah, I spent a lot of my early years in this house. A lot of early times drinking, trying drugs, all this sort of different shit was all in this house. Mixed memories, mixed emotions. Lots of weird self-discovery, but also lots of exposure to really toxic and dangerous shit, And we were kids. The house was full of adults. It was and we adapted to that environment. It was really full on looking back on it. And I guess it's pretty normalized now in society these days with how much access kids have to all that sort of stuff. But yeah, very interesting. Yeah. Oh. Memories are flooding back. There was another guy that lived on this street, Paul. Can't remember his last name. Yeah, it's really interesting. My good friend I caught up with, her name's Carla. Another good friend I had when I was a kid, her name was Kiri. And my mate Andrew, Crookie. We spent so many years on these streets, different houses. I think this one for sale right now is Paul's house. Remember, Paul was going out with Kiri. Very, very interesting. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this was Paul's house. We were across the road there. Activating a lot of memories. And I hope all my old friends from when I was a kid watch this, you know. It's interesting. Even last time I caught up with Crookie, he told me a bunch of stuff and a bunch of stories from my childhood that I couldn't quite remember, and I'd suppressed, just about his perspective of me. But you know, the late 90s, early 2000s was a very comfortably toxic era. You know, subwoofers. I remember subwoofers. That was the time of the subwoofers, you know. That was the thing. Oh, yeah, I got the subwoofer in the back of the car. And me and my mate, we would have been like 12. And we were cruising around with adults, drinking, taking drugs, and listening to songs with the subwoofer in the car, you know. I remember, you can do it, put your back into it. I could do it, put your ass into it. Pump an ice cube. Cruising around. But, you know, these streets around here in Blackmans Bay is where I really spent a lot of my formative years, you know. I went a shortcut through my primary school to go back to my childhood house, which was a house that my mother and my sisters and I moved into after we left the foster home. And yeah, I'm gonna walk down to the beach, and on the way I'm just gonna, yeah, allow these memories to come out and talk about them. You know, you gotta understand, this is 20 years ago now. And yeah, it's quite surreal living all this sort of shit. You know, it's interesting to look back where we were as kids and how many different paths that we've all taken in different ways, good and bad, you know. Yeah, Herne Road. Kiama Place, yeah, that's right. Very interesting. Remember Dwayne and Tamika Thistleton lived in this house here on the corner. This house, was it a girl's name? Her name was Paige. I think she was in my sister's grade. I think it's very important on our journey as we get older and gain perspective on life to go back to these places that the formative years happened, you know. Yeah, you know, you learn so much as a kid, and I think we really dismiss a lot of those formative years as we get older, and we don't really realize how they affected us, what different situations that we went through, how they manifested in our lives in good and bad ways, you know. There's definitely elements of this suburb that helped me go forward and achieve to what I did achieve, and how I left Tassie and everything that I've done around the country. You know, some of my friends that I was hanging with back then that have done different things. I know Kiri, Kiri was like my best friend, along with Crookie, you know, and yeah, we've both lived in very different lives. I tried to reach out to her recently, but I haven't heard back. But you know, she ended up joining the Navy. She ran her own fitness company called Military Mama, and I think she was very successful from what I know. But yeah, You know, as you get older, some people grow distant, some people stay connected. I saw Crookie not long ago, and it was a blessing, because it was right before I really did some deep healing within my family, and it was meant to be that I ran into him just before I got to my mum's house and really had to process some stuff. And the interesting thing while I'm talking about this, because I know it's been a bit of a theme this week, is the victim mentality. And, you know, a lot of people say, well, just get over it and sorts of things like that. But I know if people are being emotionally confronted by talking about this, is because it reminds them of times in their life and the circumstances that made them who they were, that, you know, actions that they did that they might regret in certain ways, or they don't, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's up to you personally how intuitive you want to look inside and how you want to be, you know. It's really up to you. And I guess the reason why I'm making this vlog is because this is me processing. This is me understanding it. And yeah, the more that we can actually understand ourselves, understand what made us who we are, you know, we can figure out who we are now, or who we are at, or whatever, you know. My brain's getting a bit like overwhelmed by it. This is like the entrance to the primary school that I went to. You got the 3 basketball courts here. You know, so many early memories. I remember this spot behind the court was a significant spot for me. You know, these are the places where I realized in many different ways who I was. I remember being just around this spot here and having moments of trying to socialize, and then people not understanding me. You know, there was a fair bit of bullying. There's all sorts of shit, and that's childhood, you know what I mean? But when you go through these significant moments when you're a kid, you don't realize how much it affects you. And the more that I demask myself as an adult and I allow myself to really be me, the more that I understand that it was significant moments that happened at primary school, at this place right here, that really defined who I was for the last 25 years of my life, you know. Because that's where you learn how to fit in. Those early days, you know. And if you don't fit in those early days, it can dramatically affect your future in certain different ways. It's all crazy. I remember this was my grade 2 classroom, Mrs. Orr. This was the door to the classroom here, but they've bricked it up now. Out the netball court. All these fences weren't here. They've obviously fenced it off to make it all a bit more safer, which is definitely a positive thing. Yeah, very interesting. Remember, far out, it's coming back. All right, here we go. It's coming back. I remember I got bashed just here by a guy called Glenn, who was a few years older than me. You know, all those early stages. That was the handball wall over there. We used to play handball against that wall. This was all a bit different. It's all been renovated in all sorts of different ways. Yeah, because this was another basketball court like these two, but it's not now, it's open. Seems like that's the handball spot now. Looks like I won't be able to cruise through very much because it's all shut off now. Yeah, it's all locked up. The old after school care. old Blackmans Primary. I really hope some of my childhood mates watch this. Hope you can reminisce back on it. You know, it looks like the after school care is the same building. Yeah, outside school hours care is called now. After school is what it was. This building doesn't look like it's changed very much. Everything else has changed quite a lot, but not so much this one. I think they're doing some cleaning. That sand pit was probably still there though. This sand pit, I think, is original. I remember, yeah. This was my prep classroom. I remember being in here with Mrs. Medwin Smith. I remember being embarrassed on Father's Day in this room. Because, you know, I was one of the few kids in the class whose dad wasn't around, and I always had to sit out on Father's Day. And yeah, these roller doors weren't here. This was just a courtyard. I remember there was this guy called Rudy, and Rudy used to always pretend to be a car. And I didn't realize at the time, but he was just heavily autistic. The beauty of like understanding neurodivergence now is that, yeah, we can look back on hindsight at our childhood and realize why people were a bit different, why they did certain things, you know. And you're like, oh, yeah, of course he was trying to be a car. He was autistic, you know, it makes sense. Like he fully committed, like he was always a car. Everything he did was like he just lived like he was a car. And that's the thing when you're all kids. I remember another guy that I was mates with in primary school, and he loved the bouncy ball. He was just obsessed with the bouncy ball. And this is the thing is, when you're all kids, you know, you all do different stuff like that. But the older you get, and some people change, some people grow out of it, some people don't, you know. I think by the time I got to grade 10, I realised David, oh yeah, he's autistic, you know. Won't talk for a sec while I walk past this cleaning van. Man, this is trippy. It's bringing back all sorts of memories. All sorts of memories. Oh. Mr. Hotwood, he was the groundsman. I remember the principal I had for the early years was Mr. Walpole. And Mr. Walpole was awesome. He come down onto the oval down there and he kicked the footy with us. But then Mr. Walpole left and Mr. Osborne came in. And Mr. Osborne was not a nice guy from what I remember. And he targeted me and my friends. He didn't like me, he didn't like Kiri, didn't like Crookie. Empty VB cartons stashed under the primary school. Yeah, I remember this little building being here. That hasn't changed. This is so trippy. Very interesting to me. Yeah. Spent a lot of time in the principal's office in primary school. Internal suspension. All sorts of shit. It's very interesting to reflect on it all. Maybe that was the entrance to the office. This has changed quite a bit. Yeah, this has changed. Because I feel like just here was the entrance to the principal's office. Crazy. Very weird. Coming up here, we got... So yeah, I remember the internal suspension room, I think was behind this wall here. It was like an outside courtyard or something. This seems to be the entrance to the office now. Yeah, it's all chopped and changed around. But I think, yeah, I remember last time I was down here, we filmed the video clip for Responsibilities for Dundee. I think we did a shot just here. Now, these old weatherboards are the same. Oh, memories are flooding back. Ghost drops. Cobbers. I think this room... This was the room I learned about kinetic energy in. I remember getting some beads and I used to like swing the beads round, you know what I mean? Like, and I was very intrigued at the fact that when I moved the beads, the pattern of the beads kept moving, you know what I mean? Like the more I'd go, and I'd go, and learning about physics in hindsight. I didn't know it was physics when I was that age. We're talking like, you know, 6, 7 years old. My memory's pretty interesting in what it brings back, you know. But yeah. All right. Very trippy. So, yeah. These stairs over here. You'd have to walk down these stairs to walk down there to go down to the principal's office. And through that door, you had the library with Mrs. Sears. Mrs. Kibbe was the music teacher. Mrs. Williams, shout outs to Mrs. Williams. She's a great human that I've lucky enough to seen a few times in my adult life. And yes, much love, Mrs. Williams. Gay Williams is her name. Gay, bless her. This was my grade 5-6 classroom. Mr. Taylor, Mr. McCarthy, Mrs. Coote. I know Mrs. Coote worked here for a long time. I don't know if she's still here. And this was the entrance to the hall. Yep, that looks like it's still the canteen there. I remember me and Kiri, and I think you used to walk along here. Oh, I feel like there was a door here that went into the hall. Maybe it was that door there. Yeah, maybe this sort of section is new. But Kiri and I snuck in Red Bears to our grade 5 disco. Some vodka, you know, flavoured vodkas, Red Bears. We got caught. And I got suspended and Kiri got expelled and then she got sent to Margate Primary. Here it is. There we go, there's the hall. All the discos, the grade 6 leavers dinner, graduation. Trippy. I remember our graduation song. They made us do that, the year before us, their graduation song was the song by Green Day. I hope you have the time of your life. And I loved that song and I wanted it for my grade 6 leavers song. But they made us sing that fucking annoying Australian song then. We are one, but we are many. And from all the lands on earth we come. We share our dream and sing with one voice. I am, you are, we are Australian. Trash. Here we go, this looks a bit old school. Welcome to Blackmans Bay Primary School. I've tried to look into the history of the name Blackmans Bay and they reckon there was a guy that lived down here called John Blackman or something like that. I read somewhere else that, you know, when they were coming up the Derwent River down there, they tried to arrive, or they tried to pull up here on the beach, but yeah, lots of mob were down there and the settlers shit them and they kept going up the river to settle. But yeah, I remember around the back of the hall, this is where the dentist bus used to come, with like a giraffe on the side. You know how they bring the dentistry bus into primary school? And everyone had to go see the dentist, and it's like a caravan, like the dentist caravan, you know what I mean? I wonder if they still do that shit. Probably don't. You probably actually have to go see a dentist, and you know, I feel things were better back then. This playground looks like it's pretty OG. I don't think this is the original one. I remember getting stuck up on the handlebars, or maybe that was a playground down there. Those early days where you climb up onto the top of the monkey bars, that's right, and then you get stuck. You know, too scared to get down. They have to get a teacher to come help you down, you know, shit like that. I went for a walk on the beach this morning with my mum down at Browns River. Traditional name for Browns River, I've learned, is Promenelina. Yeah, Promenelina. But yeah, and I saw Daniel Schofield. It's Daniel Schofield. The Schofields grew up on this street, Home Avenue. I walked down here to my childhood house. So my childhood house, first grew up in 152 Roslyn Avenue. You know when you're a kid and you have to learn your phone number and your address? I was always stoked because my address rhymed. It was 152 Roslyn Avenue. 152 Roslyn Avenue. I spent a lot of time around this street, just here, all up and down. Blowhole Road up there, we'll go down to the Blowhole. Matt Frodgham, he lived a bit up there. Abby Doyle lived up there. So many different people. Alex Bowles. The names are flooding back now. Wonder if everyone remembers all this sort of stuff. Or do we just delete it as we move on in life? I remember one time this shed got burnt down. So the old crossing guard lady worked here. So I'll cross the road and I'll show you, this is my childhood house. It looks very different to what it did. I think my mum sold this house in, would have had to be 2000. I think 2000. She bought it in it would have been 1993 or 1994. I'm pretty sure she bought this house for about 70 grand. And then I think she sold it around 2000 for something like $120,000. How's that? You could buy a house in Tassie for 120 grand in the year 2000. But yeah, I'll tell you a pretty hectic story about something that happened just here. So here it is, this house here. This was my first childhood house. What's that tag? It looks like my hand styles. Maybe I did that tag. I don't remember doing that tag. But these marks on this pole is a bit of a hectic story. So the crossing guard lady used to stand just here. And one day, just as I'd finished school, I'd finished school when I come across here and I walked back to my house. It was just there. And I remember the crossing guard lady used to park her car just up around the corner on Home Avenue. Man, I'll blow out if people remember this. But one day the crossing guard lady, she finished work and she walked around here and she grabbed her car. And as she pulled out here, another car was flying down Roslyn Avenue and T-boned the car right here, right? And the thing is, I'd just gotten inside. I remember I was like in my front yard and I heard the smash right here. It was a hectic smash. Just like this, poof, and then I heard smash, smash. And so the crossing guard lady, she pulled out here, she got T-boned, and then her car rolled all the way down here to this pole that was directly at the corner of my house. And oh, far out. Yeah, the car wrapped around this pole. I remember, because the thing was, I was just inside the gate here and we heard the smash and I was terrified. I remember being like, I didn't know what was going on, but I remember I was just inside this gate and my mum come running out the front door and I followed my mum, and I remember standing just here looking at that pole and the car was on its side wrapped around the pole. And my mum ran up, and my mum and a few other people were here trying to rip the car back down. Fuck, it was traumatic. I can't remember the crossing guard lady's name, but she was lovely. But I remember, yeah, the car was wrapped around this. It came out on Home Avenue, got hit, it rolled and flipped down and boof, wrapped around this pole. And my mum and a few other civilians or people that were helping out helped rip the car down. And then my mum came in, you know, put me and my sisters back inside the house. Can't remember what happened to the crossing guard lady. I think she survived the accident. But yeah, full on. I remember I used to rollerblade down this hill. I remember rollerblading down one day and my mum pulled out of the driveway here in our van. My mum had like a van for her and us kids. And I fucking smacked into the side of the van on my rollerblades. We had a few pets when I was living at this house. Man, it's different. So we lost so many pets to this street. I remember we had 2 dogs, a few cats, I think even guinea pigs. And they all ended up escaping, getting onto this road and getting flattened. I remember 2 of my childhood dogs getting hit by cars, and one, yeah, traumatic, being really fucked up and watching my dog die just here. That was my dog Tessa. And then I had another dog that I saved up all my pocket money for like a year. And because I really loved the movie The Mask, and I wanted to get this Fox Terrier or a Jack Russell. I didn't know the difference. I thought Jack Russells were Fox Terriers, I think. And I ended up getting a little Fox Terrier, and I called him Milo. I named him the same name as the dog in the movie The Mask. And yeah, Milo got hit by a car too. And bless my mum, she just put his body in our front yard. And I remember walking out, and I remember crying, sitting next to my dead dog here in the front yard for ages. Just sitting there with his body and just crying and grieving, which I'm glad my mum allowed me to process that sort of stuff and just sit there with my pet after he'd been hit by a car. I remember there was blood coming out his nose and he was just lying there dead. Very interesting. This was the creche that I went to, my sisters went to. This playground looks like it hasn't really changed. Remember finding Spitfires in here, jack jumpers, Inchmen. When you're a kid that age, that's all your worst enemies. This playground's the same. Look at this. This actually hasn't changed in a long time. You can tell. Look at the tiny little ladder. And these old bars. Yeah, this is ancient. I reckon this little playground's got to be like 30 years old. Yeah, the old bridge is looking a bit worse for wear. I've got a couple new planks in it. The other ones are splitting. The tags have changed over time. Add snap. Back then, that's right, in the creche. This is where I did kindergarten, in this building. My best mate when I was in kindergarten, his name was Lewis Penny. Early years. Playing dinosaurs, all that sort of stuff. But, you know, growing up across the road from the primary school, and these were the days where, you know, Mum would just send us off and say, yeah, you can't come home until the lights are on. So, you know, we spent all our childhood pretty much at the primary school, before and after school. Oh, that's the monkey bars I'm talking about. Let's go. Some of this original playground's here, some of it's changed. There used to be a tower on this playground that's not there anymore. Yeah, some of this hasn't changed at all. Yeah, these monkey bars right here. I remember getting stuck. I remember climbing up these onto the top of it, and I got stuck on top, and I was too scared to get down. I had to get someone to run up and get a teacher to come down and get me off them. So many formative years, you know. You do some weird shit when you're kids. Yeah, that climbing wall wasn't there when I was in primary school. I remember when they did it. But I feel like the tower was here or something. Yeah, it's been chopped and changed a bit. But yeah, this old wood, you can tell it's the original old playground. It's ain't this new shit that they've got these days. Yeah, and then they put this, they did this after I left, but this whole concrete path right here to make the oval wheelchair accessible. That shit didn't exist in the 90s. The old oval. You know, you go through, weird shit as kids. Remember being on the oval and just throwing rocks at each other. And George Simzowski was a Greek guy that lived just down near the roundabout over there. I don't know if he got hit in the eye with the rock or if he threw a rock that hit someone in the eye. You know, that was the thing. They're like, don't throw rocks, you'll take someone's eye out. And all of a sudden, there's a bunch of us kids just pegging rocks at each other on the fucking oval. And boof, someone got hit in the eye. This is trippy. Yeah, this playground's new here. But this was another old school playground. There used to be those tires that you climb up. And I'm pretty sure from what I remember, me and my mates found porn magazines stashed inside the tires. And that was one of the earliest times me and my mates discovered porn, you know. And it seemed to be the case back then. You'd find some porn mags stashed somewhere. And then we ran down to the side of the oval over here. Fuck. Oh no, how's this? Me and my mates. Yeah, same era. It was right around the time we discovered porn. This is what kids do. It's fucked up. But I remember climbing one of the fences of the houses down here on the side of the oval. And then we like stole some bras that were on the clothesline in someone's backyard. And then we climbed back over the fence and then we stashed the bras in some bushes. Somehow we got caught. And the principal made us walk down the main road to the house and knock on the door with the bras in our hands and give it back. fuck, it was embarrassing. That was very embarrassing. Fucking hell, you do some weird shit when you're kids, you know what I mean? Very bizarre to look back on it. You know, it's those formative years of learning those valuable lessons. I remember there was a weird kid in one of my grades, and once we just walked down and he was just here taking a shit in the bush, you know what I mean? Like, it's fucking weird. It's very interesting. I'm having all sorts of revelations of just shit's popping out. This building wasn't here back then. Because that was yeah, you'd walk down through the primary school to come down here to the shops. You go to the shops and you get your lollies. You know, back then it was a classic IGA, way before Hill Street Grocer was a thing. Yeah, this was just all weeds and just like a block of land. I remember, see, these are all the places where like, you know, you'd smoke weed. I remember passing out in the middle of that roundabout down there because me and my mates got a stick and it was laced with fly spray. We got real sick, you know what I mean? Wonder if people are still doing that fucked up shit, lacing weed with fly spray. Very interesting. So yeah, a lot of my childhood was spent down at these shops. It's a very different time. These shops are, I think the news agency is still the same. You know, once again, that was the days of the kids would just lurk the streets. You know, we'd have our own crew, we'd do whatever. Oh, there was another Andrew, I can't remember his last name. He lived in the flats up there. There was a girl called Cindy Swagger or something like that. And her parents owned the pizza shop where the sushi joint is. Old Blackers Shopping Centre, the old Horseshoe. Back then, these concrete barriers weren't here. It was just wooden planks just here. And this is where me and my mates would spend all our days. You know, we'd hang out here, ask adults to buy us cigarettes. We'd go steal lollies. This is the shop that I stole a cucumber from. And I got caught, and so everyone called me Cucumber for a couple of years. My first ever email address, I'm pretty sure, was cumber45@hotmail.com, based off my grade 4 nickname. Can't remember what was in this end shop here. We've got a banjos here now, but I'm pretty sure this was the old video rental shop. And this woman that worked in the video rental shop, her name was Yvonne. And Jason Potsy, used to sit there all day with Yvonne and help put the videos back on the shelf, you know. And Yvonne was a legend. God bless her. I hope she's still with us somewhere. I don't think she is. But probably not the best, but she used to give us a cigarette if we'd help her put all the videos away. She ran the, you know, the video rental shop. This is all Hill Street now, but yeah, at the time, this wasn't the entrance. The entrance was just here, I'm pretty sure. The entrance was here. And around the corner here is where I spent a lot of time too. Me and my mates used to sit just here all the time. I remember I had a friend called Jono. Jono ran away from home one night. And Jono's mum called my mum and was like, "Can you guys find Jono? He's run away from home." And we came down here looking. And Jono was just there, look. And he had this little fire going and he had a loaf of bread. And he had a stick with bread on it. And he was trying to cook toast on a fire and just burning the bread. And Jono was just sitting there crying, burning his bread over the fire. And my mum was like, come on, Jono, come back and stay at our place. We'll get pizza. And that's how we got Jono to come to my house. I think this was a hairdresser back then. Or maybe something. You know, these were the days of sparkler bombs, smoke bombs. You'd go get sparklers from the IGA in an orange juice bottle. And then we'd you'd set up the sparkler bomb. We'd go back to the primary school and we'd blow them up in the playgrounds. Yeah, I remember putting smoke bombs in the post office box. Cunts of kids, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's right. Yeah, we get a table tennis ball, wrap it up in foil, light it till it pops, and then we put the smoke bomb into this, and we watch the smoke pouring out of it, and then we see the guys from the news agency come out and pour water into it and ruin everyone's mail. That's what we were doing as kids. Terrible, you know. The old news agency. I remember stealing heaps of Foot Rot Flats books from here. Or I'd steal money out of my mum's purse and come down and buy Foot Rot Flats. And she busted me one day. She caught me. That's right. And Mum made me come down and return all the Foot Rot Flats. I got caught doing heaps of shit as a kid. And bless them, they always made me do the thing, like the principal made me go down and knock on the lady's house and give her bras back, and in the same sense, go give the Foot Rot Flats back. Studio 16, yeah, I think this hairdresser was here back then. And the fish and chip shop was over there. That was Adam. Can't remember his wife's name, but it was a couple that ran the fish and chip shop. And so, yeah, I think it was grade 5. My mum remarried and we moved out of that house and we moved down the much more southern end of Blackmans Bay. And you know, that brought some differences and changes. Well, they call this the Bayview Market now. It's trippy. It's quite surreal coming back. And yeah, once again, I think this is important for everyone. It helps you gain perspective on your journey, who you are, the way that your childhood shaped you. You know, these are all valuable lessons that you learn as a kid and they make you who you are. And even like thinking back over the shit that I'm talking about now, yeah, I guess I was a bit of a cunt of a kid, you know, and grew up without my dad. I didn't have a strong male role model in my life. So, you know, I tested those boundaries. The more that we talk about, you know, the kids that you see in the street now, the Eshays and everything that, you know, people call them. I was talking with Rates last night, and the thing is now Eshays are a thing in Tasmania. Like, a lot of people down here don't understand the cultural history of that fashion, the language, the lads or the Adelays, or where Eshay came from, you know. I was very lucky to like meet Cursor and Rates in 2010, kind of the start of their journey as they got outside Western Sydney, and I watched that influence grow, you know. Yeah, it's full on, very interesting, because really, you know, Blackmans Bay is a pretty good suburb. I was lucky to grow up down here. And I'm gonna go up to Marino Heights, which is like, Marino Heights is the dodgy, always has been the dodgy side of this side of town, you know. This whole area is on the south side of Hobart. It's a part of the Kingborough area. I'm gonna do Kingston as well. But we go all the way up there to the top of the hill to get weed, to get different things like that. And that came with its own interesting journey, you know. No, that Salvation Church has been there for a long time. Saw these little pathways, you know. Ooh. This is all the area that I first discovered hip hop in too. I remember listening to Eminem a lot, listening to Wu-Tang, listening to Afro Man, all sorts of different shit. Early days of doing graffiti. The first piece I ever did was in Kingston Beach. I think it was on the back of the toilet, the public toilet block there. It's interesting, you can tell people aren't used to watching someone walk around with the camera down here either. Getting a lot of looks out of people in their cars and stuff. But I don't give a fuck anymore. I'm getting real comfortable with doing this. And regardless of what people are thinking or saying, I'm just gonna keep yarning, keep lurking, you know. So once I moved out of the house up that way, I moved to a house up in Illawarra Road. And so I'd spend a lot of time walking by here. I'd buy a lot of my lollies. I remember I'd buy a Mars bar and a Coke. You'd get a Mars bar and a can of Coke for $2, $1 each, that was the deal. And back then I remember the Mars bars had something about every 20 cents from every Mars bar goes towards getting Tasmania their own AFL team, you know. Yeah, very interesting. This is Pearsall Ave. This is how you'd walk down to the beach. You walk down to Blackers Beach this way. I had a mate called Porridge. Andrew Jenkins. His parents' house was just here. This used to be an old church. None of these things were here. Yeah. All linked in with all sorts of different shit. Yeah, it's, you know, looking back on it, there was fucking heaps of pedophiles around. There really was. You know, all sorts of weird, dodgy cunts lurking around. There was one guy lurking around. He used to wear those, like, different coloured, sort of fluorescent, big sunglasses. He had long hair, and everyone called him Jesus. Yeah, that was Porridge's house. Wonder if his family still lived there.